And welcome in, folks, to another edition of Open Mic Night. I'm your host, Noah Toluki, and on today's episode, Lions getting a big win over Washington, 30-27, on a game-winning field goal from kicker Matt Prater. We're going to break down that win for you as the Lions move to 4-5. Also, what does it mean for the rest of the season now for the Lions? And we'll also look ahead to their big matchup against the 3-7 Carolina Panthers next Sunday. Also, Michigan losing 49-11 in an embarrassing loss to Wisconsin at home in the Big House. I have a possible solution to Harbaugh's problems. We'll get into that later as well. And joining us as our guest will be Scotty Nelson, the starting safety for the University of Wisconsin. He had the interception on the first play of Michigan's drive. A former classmate of mine at the University of Detroit Jesuit, and I had the privilege to broadcast a lot of his games back for the old Cubs Sportscast. He'll join us later to talk about the game and his career, as well as the tribute that he had to Zach Winston, the late brother of Cassius Winston. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Masters week. Dustin Johnson winning the green jacket for the first time in his career. Really fun to see that. Kind of tuned in here and there. We kind of knew by Saturday that he was going to win. It had a nice lead going into Sunday. I like watching golf. I don't know about anybody else out there, but golf to me is really fun, and I love playing it as well. So time to time, maybe we might talk about it a little bit on the podcast in future episodes. But let's just dive right into this. 30-27 Lions victory. Very impressive. Now, Lions were having a field day at the beginning of the game, up 24-3 at one point. But then, typical Lions, they start playing a little more relaxed. And guess what? The Washington football team comes back and ties it up at 24 apiece. And we're all thinking, including myself, oh no, this is the typical Lions that we've been so used to this whole year. Washington is 2-6. What are we doing? And then all of a sudden, Prater made the field goal. Then they made the field goal after some bad calls by the referees, including that one against Desmond Trufant, which was not the right call on that fourth down, but it extended the drive. They got the field goal. And then I saw there was 16 seconds left. And before they kicked off, I remember thinking, we have 3 timeouts. We have Stafford. Let's do it. Let's win this in regulation, because if we go to overtime, it's a toss-up, because it's basically a coin flip, as to determine basically who's going to win the football game, because a lot of times the team who gets the ball first scores. So I was like, I don't want this to go to overtime. And seeing Matthew Stafford drive it down the field, playing really smart football, getting the yards he needed, and then Prater booting a 59-yard field goal after the last few weeks having the yips. He was 3 for 3 on field goals, including some pretty long field goals, like the 59-yarder. I was impressed that the Lions finished the job. And I know everybody out there, oh, well, this hurts their draft pick. No. And I've told you this before. You are paid to win games. The fans are the only ones that think of this from a different perspective. That, oh, the more games we lose, the better draft pick. No. If you were a player, would you want to be losing every week? No, you play to win. And that's what these guys did. And I'll tell you this. It was scary for a minute. I really thought for a second that it was a sign of them blowing it again, blowing another lead. But something that the Lions have struggled to do a lot in recent years is find a way to finish games and find a way to win games. And this week they actually found a way to win the game. So I was impressed by that. Still, it's unexcusable for Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. I still believe that they should be fired at the end of this season. But if we win against Carolina on Sunday, and if they beat the Texans on Thanksgiving, they'll be at 6-5. They'll be in somewhat of contention still. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I still believe they have not proved enough this season to get extensions. And I've talked to you about this in the past. I think it's time to blow it up. Yes, still try to win games, because that's what the players do. They try to win, unlike fans that want us to lose more to get the better pick. No. I don't care how many more wins the Lions get this season. I think Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn should be gone, and I hope that Sheila Ford and ownership is not buying into this illusion of, ooh, we're winning some games now. They should come back. No. I'm done. We have to start over. because Patricia blew enough leads this season to have him not come back, and it was quite embarrassing, to tell you the truth. Almost blew one on Sunday, but Lions found a way to win, and I like how Matthew Stafford dissected that Washington defense. 24 of 33, 276 yards, 3 touchdowns. To be honest, I was really surprised to hear that Washington has the number 1 pass defense in the NFL, and Stafford put up some pretty good numbers against them, which is interesting because really Washington, it's weird because it seemed like they played better than their 2-7 record now, but it's against the Lions. So how much of that can I really say? I mean, look at Alex Smith, 38 of 55 for almost 400 yards. I mean, he didn't throw a touchdown, but he was slicing and dicing all day too. And then, of course, as Karma puts it, ex-Lions doing some damage against the Lions. J.D. McKissick having a nice game. Also, Logan Thomas catching some passes from his tight end spot. I mean, these are 2 ex-Lions that were playing pretty well against the Lions for Washington. So it's crazy sometimes how we see ex-Lions playing well against us. I mean, we even saw it in Minnesota last week. Amir Abdullah. I didn't even know he was still in the league. He caught a touchdown pass. I will say this, though. I know it's Washington. I know they're 2-7. I get it. But I did like how Matthew Stafford was utilizing some more of his targets. Marvin Jones, he's been quiet a lot this season. He was able to lead the team in targets. He had 10 targets, had almost 100 yards. I like how they used DeAndre Swift, kind of like that Swiss Army knife. And I was saying this during the game, he's like Theo Riddick in terms of catching out of the backfield, but he's just a way better running back. I mean, 16 carries, 81 yards. Theo Riddick was never that good of a running back, but he was excellent in pass coverage. DeAndre Swift, he's a Swiss Army knife because he can do it all. And I like how the Lions are starting to utilize him more and more every week, getting his confidence up. Now, I know Washington, is a bad football team, but still, getting him reps, getting him experience, that's only going to help in the future for the Lions. So I really like that, what they're doing there. Also, Marvin Hall getting some catches. 2 receptions, 61 yards, including that 1 touchdown that was deep, 55 yards from Stafford. I like how they're using his speed more. He's a little bit more of a deep ball threat. I believe they say he's like the fastest player on the team or something like that. Definitely have to utilize him more, especially in the absence of Kenny Golladay. And I know last week the broadcast put up a graphic of what the offense is like with Kenny Golladay and without Kenny Golladay, and the numbers were pretty staggering. Lions looked like a well-oiled machine on some offensive possessions. That's really good to see even without Kenny. And also, I wish they could target TJ Hawkins a little bit more, but I think his role was a little different in this game. Matt Patricia likes to go game-to-game basis, kind of like what the Patriots do. No new news there. But only 2 receptions for 13 yards. I think he was more of a blocking tight end in this one because that defensive line for Washington, a lot of them are young first-round picks, so they got a couple more years to develop. They could be one of the better defensive lines in the National Football League pretty soon. Glad to see some pressure from the defense. 8 times they hit Alex Smith. That offensive line was like a sieve, though, for Washington. 2 sacks. Everson Griffin even getting on him. He had 5 quarterback hits. Romeo Okwara with a big sack earlier in the first quarter as well. So awesome to see that. My message to the defense, it's great when you're playing Washington, but get more pressure when you're playing the good teams. Get more pressure when you're playing Tennessee or Tampa in a couple weeks, or the Bears, teams that are going to be looking ahead to the schedule in the next month or so that the Lions are really going to have to clamp down on. Because as of now, this is recorded before the Monday night game, which is Chicago versus Minnesota. Lions are 2 games out of the 7th seed in the wild card. So anything can happen. It's the National Football League. I mean, look at Jacksonville. Look at how competitive they were with the Packers. I know they lost, but they were still pretty competitive. Anything can happen. That's why I'm not giving up yet in terms of the wild card bid. I still don't think Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn should be back, but I think they should try to at least play for that. It's going to be really tough, though. We're going to see what the Lions are really made of these next couple weeks. If they can come out of here, beat Carolina, and then beat the Texans on Thanksgiving, 6-5, they'll at least be in decent shape before they go play the good teams like the Bears, Titans, Bucks, Vikings again, Packers. It's going to be tough. But still, much work to be done, especially in the secondary. I mean, giving up all those yards to old Alex Smith. They're going to really have to hunker down in the next few weeks. Carolina not having that good of a season, 3-7. They have lost 5 straight games now, including a blowout loss to the Bucks last week, 46-23. They're not looking hot right now. And as of the recording, Teddy Bridgewater's still questionable. Christian McCaffrey unlikely to play for the Panthers as well. So this is a banged up Carolina team that the Lions could definitely exploit. It's going to be in Carolina. Lions have done better on the road this season. Lions will have to stop Mike Davis, who is in the top 5, I believe, in running back receptions this season in the NFL, something that they struggled to contain against J.D. McKissick in the game against Washington. But definitely will have to defend the outside. Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, both with over 700 receiving yards, 5 total touchdowns as well. That's something that the Lions have struggled with a lot lately, defending the outsides, getting beaten man coverage, something that Matt Patricia's got to mix a little more zone in maybe in order to have success next week. So 1 p.m. on Fox should be fun. And then the annual Thanksgiving football tradition in the city of Detroit. I always love it. Going to be a little different this year, obviously, but playing the Texans should be fun. I always love enjoying that with the turkey, with my family as well. But I want to talk a little bit about Michigan first before we get to our guest. Michigan losing 49-11, an embarrassing loss again to Wisconsin. And I have a solution, and that the broadcast mentioned, and I thought it was interesting to discuss a little bit. I think it was later in the fourth quarter when Kirk Herbstreit got on and was talking about Harbaugh's recruiting. Now, we know that recruiting is the backbone of college football. You know, the best schools are usually the best recruiters. He talked about Michigan and how they've had success in the Northeast in recruiting, which is fine. I think Don Brown even has connections up there because he used to coach up in the Northeast. Get some players here and there. But the point is that they haven't had success in the states that really, really matter in terms of football recruiting. No knock on the Northeast, but I don't think that's really like a talent hotbed for high school football as it is in Ohio, as it is in Pennsylvania, Florida, Georgia, California, Texas, those states. I mean, Bo Schembechler and Lloyd Carr, they did a great job of going to some of those states, having a connection in Florida. Ohio, even, Bo would go into to get players, steal them away from Ohio State. It's just not happening anymore with Jim Harbaugh. As many people know, he's very stubborn in his ways. And I think some of that translates to the recruiting. I'm only going to go to the areas that I want to go to, not the areas trying to get the best players where they're from. It's from the areas that I want to, like the Northeast. I think Michigan has to expand its horizons a little bit, get more into Florida, get more into Georgia, and get more into California, Texas. I know they have Charbonnet and a couple other guys from California, but I think if they have to compete on this national level, you see Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, they're getting guys from all over the country in these states with a lot of high school football talent, whereas Michigan lags behind. And I've said it before, I'm neutral with Michigan and Michigan State, but I want Michigan to be at that level where it makes the rivalry competitive, where it makes the Ohio State game competitive, where players are playing for the University of Michigan. They're playing for the Block M and the tradition that it stands for. Because right now, it seems like there's guys on Michigan that are playing for themselves or trying to play to get drafted in the NFL. They're not playing for that Michigan name that Bo and Lloyd and all them that they embraced. It's a lot more focused on the celebrities and the brand. Hey, we got Air Jordan gear and all that. I think that's what Michigan is more focused on right now. It's being watered down, the fact that, hey, there's a lot of tradition here. The winged helmet, Bo, having pride for the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. It's just been watered down, and you think of going back to Rich Rodriguez, you go back to Brady Hoke. I mean, it has not really been the same at Michigan since arguably Lloyd Carr left. I mean, has Michigan had talent in those past 12 years? Yes. They've gotten some guys from Florida, like Denard Robinson and a couple other talented players, other high-end NFL talent. You got Rashawn Gary, you got Jabril Peppers, some other players as well, Taylor Lewan. But it seems like they just want it to be cool, a cool look. Air Jordan's cool, not necessarily tradition-based. And that's, I think, what Michigan's problem is. Now, don't get me wrong. Fans love looking to the past of Michigan, the past glory. We're the victors. We're the leaders of the West. I'm talking about players and coaches buying into those past traditions. I decided to watch it the other day, the Who's Got It Better Than Us video that Jim Harbaugh did with those rappers, and, they made it look cool. But no, that's not what Michigan's about. Michigan is about the tradition. And I get that could be for recruiting and all that, but don't make the basis of your program like that. The basis of the program should be on that tradition of Bo and all that, mixed in with some modern twists, like a modern offense. But if Michigan can go back to its places where they recruited a lot of those great athletes that made those great Michigan teams amazing, and they focus a little more on tradition, playing for that Block M, I think we could see Michigan rise up again in the coming years. And joining us here on Open Mic Night is the starting safety at the University of Wisconsin for the Badgers, redshirt junior, had 5 tackles, led the team, and had an interception on the first play of the game against the University of Michigan. Scotty Nelson joining us here on Open Mic Night. Scotty, thanks again for joining us.
No problem, Noah. Thanks for having me.
So, first play of the game, picking off Joe Milton. What was going through your mind during that interception? Because it seemed like you just, wrestled that ball from the receiver and came down with it and came up with the turnover.
Yeah, so I was guarding one tight end to my side, and the other safety was guarding his tight end, and they threw it to actually his tight end, and Eric Burrell, the other safety, made a really nice play, got the ball out, and I was able to get a hand on it and catch the tip pass and just kind of capitalize on those opportunities early on in the game was one of the big emphasis that Coach Leonard was really trying to instill in us this game was big plays early, and turnovers are always huge.
So afterwards, you made a tribute on the sidelines to Zach Winston, the late brother of Cassius Winston, who passed away last year. How did that come up? Was it just kind of like a spur-of-the-moment thing? Was it something that you planned? And, how much did Zach mean to you in your life?
That wasn't really planned, the whole tribute. I think there was some things that were planned. I wrote some stuff on my shoes. I got a thigh pad with his initials on it, and I put something on my eye black for him. So there was some stuff planned, but that wasn't. I just kind of was coming off the field, and I noticed, or I was just thinking about how everything that I've kind of been through over the past year or so, and what's affected me, come to this point. And I was just kind of thinking about him and how he had to have an impact in that play and stuff like that. And so once I kind of saw our camera person had something recorded, and I kind of just said something from the heart and just kind of talked about what he kind of expressed what he mean to me. But then, like you were saying, he played a big part in my life. He changed me while he was still here. Just his personality was infectious. He was just a very loving, funny, goofy kid that just was so fun to be around and just hang out with during basketball, non-basketball seasons. He was so supportive during football season, stuff like that. So he changed me on how I view and kind of would like to help people. Anybody who's kind of going through something, I just want to make myself available to make sure if they're feeling like they're going through something and they need to talk, and they don't need to know me well, they don't need to be like going to school with me or to know me in high school. Just if they need help with anything, like I'll be available for them, and just trying to make sure that whatever he was feeling, that he would want me to help anybody who's feeling the same way.
Of course, you're a native of Detroit, obviously University of Detroit Jesuit High School. Now, how much does it mean to you to be playing at the Big House, of course, at the University of Michigan, very iconic stadium, and of course your family was there as well. So what was it like, playing in front of them as well?
Yeah, I think the biggest part for me was just kind of being able to play in front of my family. Wisconsin's got the rule where no fans will be allowed, and I recently just heard the news that Michigan just changed the rule, so it's the same way there. So we luckily got a game in where my family could come and watch me play, and my loved ones as well. So growing up, I think I was definitely more of a Michigan State fan. My uncle went there, so it was kind of a bigger part of them. But kind of in the role where I am now, I don't really see it as that. I just kind of see it as playing close to home. Being able to play in front of as many people as possible is just really important to me because, in these times, you never know what's going to happen. So I was just grateful to be able to play in front of, I think I had 15 or so people there, and they saw me make a couple plays, and it was just really special to have them there.
Of course, Wisconsin not playing the last few weeks. How did you guys focus and stay committed? Most of the Big Ten had already played their games during that week, but after the first game, a couple games canceled. What was it like, just staying committed to that goal of trying to go to Indianapolis, trying to win that Big Ten championship?
It was difficult sometimes. It's difficult whenever you're not in a group together, not in a locker room together, not practicing, stuff like that. So I think whenever you're around each other and can spend time together, I think it makes it easier. But I think the biggest challenge is just understanding that we were going to come together at some point again, and we were going to have to play a game. And that goal wasn't going to change. So trying to maximize the opportunities that we had to further ourselves to our goal, I think, was the biggest thing.
Of course, you were a talented, three-star recruit from the University of Detroit Jesuit High School, and you were kind of like a Swiss Army knife in high school. You did it all: offense, defense. Very, very talented player, very skilled. What was that recruiting process like, and how did you land with Wisconsin?
Oh, well, thank you, Noah. I appreciate the compliment. But I think for me, the biggest thing was Wisconsin was just really trying to get to know me. I didn't feel like they were trying to sell me anything. It wasn't like a fluff recruitment. It was really genuine, and they were just trying to get to know me as a person and see if I would fit in their program. And I think the more that I was able to kind of get to know them and they were able to get to know me, I think the fit just kind of felt right for both ends. So Coach Leonard did a great job of recruiting me, and Coach Turner, he's a tight ends coach. He was kind of in my area. And then obviously Coach Chris, kind of in charge of the whole staff, I think did a really good job of making it feel personalized to me and understanding that everybody's not the same. And some kids want to talk every day. Some kids want to talk once a week, something like that. So he did a great job of kind of getting to know me and making the most of my recruitment.
You mentioned Coach Leonard. He's, of course, your defensive coordinator, three-time All-American for the Badgers, played in the NFL for over 10 years. He was a safety as well, and very, very smart coach, one of the better assistants in the country. How does his experience as a safety help in your development as a player?
It's huge. His knowledge for the game is unmatched. When you don't really understand how many great players he played with until you start seeing old videos of Ed Reed and Ray Lewis and making plays on the Ravens. You see Coach Leonard back there too. Or Darrelle Revis when he was on the Jets, and Coach Leonard's back there too, stuff like that. So his knowledge of the game is unlike anybody I've met. He's got an answer for everything or any type of scheme that the offense draws up. He can match it and bring something else up that can top it. So he helps tremendously just because I'm a very curious player. I like to know why we do stuff, and he does a really good job of explaining it to me at a level where I can understand it, and also coaching each player as an individual and not just kind of like we're all built the same.
Of course, you mentioned that success earlier in your recruiting process that Wisconsin has, the tradition. A lot of that was started by Barry Alvarez, who, of course, now is the athletic director for Wisconsin. He was the former football coach. I know he has a grandson on the team as well. They showed him a lot during the broadcast at the Big House on Saturday. Talk about what he means to the football program, even though he's not the coach anymore, different role, but how much does he mean, even in that other role?
He means a lot. You can tell when he walks around, he's still got that swagger that he had when he was a coach. He's got that confidence that he understands what this program is and where it was and what we're desiring to make it. So you can tell with how he interacts with the players and the coaches. He still comes to practice a lot, talks to Coach Chris, still interact with the players and gives us tips and stuff. So it's you can definitely tell when he's around, kind of that presence that he has that just kind of makes you understand his importance and what he brought to this program during a time when they needed it, and kind of why the program is in the same position now in that same kind of culture that it had back then as it does now.
Back to your first year at Wisconsin, you actually redshirted. You were actually, I believe, the Scout Team Player of the Year on defense. What was it like, to come in from high school, being the star player of the team and having a lot of success at the high school level? What was that like to just kind of sit back, watch the older guys, and learn a lot?
Yeah, it was definitely humbling. I think whenever you come from high school and you have to redshirt, it's humbling because you're not in that same role. You're not in that spotlight that you were in high school, but you just kind of start from the bottom. You have to earn your respect again. For me, I put on about 25 pounds my redshirt year. And what was big is you got to learn the playbook and be able to play at a high speed once you understood it, once you got your chance to go in there. So that was the biggest thing for me, was kind of being able to play fast once I got in there, because I had that year that I wasn't going to get in, where I was just, okay, I was able to watch film with Coach Leonard about certain stuff and learn the scheme of not only just against our offense, but throughout the season against other offenses. It changes weekly. Kind of understanding that process beforehand was huge for me. And then academically, it helped a lot. It put me ahead, about a semester ahead, where I was able to put myself in a position where I can graduate this December and then go to grad school and still play in college while I'm getting my master's.
That's awesome to hear. And I want to ask you about your career when you were younger. Of course, you played baseball, you played basketball, for U of D even younger than that. Talk about, because there's some athletes out there that they say, well, we should specialize. We should just play football or just play basketball or something like that. But you played it all. How did that help you, in your development as an athlete at Wisconsin?
Yeah, I think playing a lot of sports definitely helps you build like athletic traits that may not be as prevalent in other sports or in one sport. So I think basketball helped me a lot, guarding guys in basketball with covering guys in football. Being able to read their step and trying to read where they wanted to go when they had the ball or when they didn't have the ball, I think was huge for me. So I think it all definitely applies. Baseball is huge for if I was playing in the outfield. It's similar playing the ball as a safety. Hand-eye coordination in baseball, hand-eye coordination in basketball are two very different things, but they both help and carry over to football too. So there's a lot. I think you learn a lot of lessons. On the basketball team, I had a different role than I had on the football team. And I honestly think that helped me in my redshirt year, where I wasn't necessarily the man in basketball. So I was able to kind of understand when I came in how I needed to earn my respect and earn my stripes and not just kind of think that's unfair and stuff like that. So I think other sports can teach you a lot about yourself and help you a lot with the sport that you do end up choosing.
Last question for you, Scotty. Of course, the NBA draft is on Wednesday, and one of your former teammates at the University of Detroit Jesuit, Cassius Winston, is in the pool, of course, from the Big Ten Player of the Year at Michigan State just a few seasons ago. Winning that state championship in 2016, going undefeated, having a national ranking. How special was it to play with Cassius? How did he help you grow as a teammate as well?
It was really fun to play with Cassius. I mean, obviously he was good, but he was a good leader, and I was able to kind of watch him develop as a leader in a way. Like, I'm not trying to sound like I'm the best leader in the world, but he was in a position where near the end of the season, he definitely became more of a vocal leader. He definitely always led by action and stuff like that, and I think you could kind of see it at Michigan State. He became more of a vocal leader too. And now you got scouts and NBA draft experts tweeting about how great of a leader he is. So that was kind of cool just to see that. His leadership style was very encouraging, very uplifting, but also if you weren't handling your business, he would make sure you were kind of knew that you needed to pick it up and stuff like that. And he understood that if he was messing up, that you could kind of say the same thing to him as long as you were handling yours, and he wouldn't take it too personal. So I think definitely a great leader, great player, as we've seen the past 4 years at Michigan State and all the people from U of D kind of saw before then. So I'm very excited to see where he's going to go. He's helped me with a lot. He helped me a lot with recruiting, kind of figuring out where I wanted to go. So, I mean, he's helped me a lot over the years, and I think we've gotten a little closer these past year or so, just with everything going on and knowing what he means to me for kind of fighting through everything that he's had to go through. It's kind of been a little inspiring to me to kind of do the same whenever I feel like something might not go my way or something like that. Whatever I go through, I can just kind of know that if I need to, I can reach out to him and he'll help me out with whatever I need. And he's kind of helped me throughout the years, kind of with everything I've been through and everything that I've had to kind of decide. So I'm very excited to see where he lands. A lot of guys on the team are asking me about it too. So we'll see. I'm very excited and kind of curious to see what team picks him and how he'll fit in.
Scotty Nelson, starting safety at Wisconsin, redshirt junior. Thanks again, Scotty, for joining us, and best of luck throughout the season and your quest for a Big Ten championship.
Perfect. Thanks, Noah. Thanks for having me.
And thanks again to Scotty Nelson for taking time out of his busy schedule to join us here on Open Mic Night. He is a great player, a great human being, and a great leader as well. One last thing before we close out the show, the NBA draft on Wednesday. Just want to give a quick shout out to Cassius Winston, University of Detroit Jesuit class of 2016, my former classmate. I got to call many of his games with the old Cubs sports cast, and he was so much fun to watch, and we're able to see him at Michigan State dominate, become one of the best point guards in Spartan history, and win the Big Ten Player of the Year. Truly, truly special, and his name will be on that list of potential NBA draft picks. Some say he's going to go late first round, early second round, around there. So keep your eye on for Cassius Winston. He is a tremendous leader, high basketball IQ, and he, in my opinion, is going to be in the NBA for a long time. So best of luck to him. Best of luck to the Lions. Maybe Wolverines can get it back on track. Michigan State, who knows? Football in this state is definitely at an all-time low. But thanks again, folks, for joining us. Make sure to check out all the other content on the podcast network, Doc and Jock, the wrestling podcast, Michigan podcast, Fan Report. A lot of great material. Be sure to check it out. Please join us next week, only on Open Mic Night.